Welcome to another episode of the Work and Play Podcast, live edition. I'm your host, Ariel Young, your career transformation and awakening coach, and I'm really excited to be here. So I was just telling folks on LinkedIn, and we're getting ready to have a really dope conversation because the production here is really dope. I'm really excited to be here on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook, as well as with my folks on Instagram. But we have to have a conversation this morning. So I want to talk a little bit about the transition, but first I want to check in with you guys because this week has been a lot. Like, it's been very eventful for me. So check in real quick. Let me know how your week has been. Whether you're watching this on the replay or you're watching this live, check in with an emoji, how you're feeling, how this week has been. When we think about like how you start your week is how you finish it, that's not necessarily true because every single day, every single moment of your week, you have the opportunity to change the outcome. And if you don't like how your day is going, you literally can make another decision to shift your perspective. I was just talking to a friend of mine and we were saying, we were talking about the transformation and how literally, whether you're doing therapy, whether you're in coaching, literally, or if you're even doing self-help, most of the time, your transformation is only one perspective shift away from you being able to access that new self, right? Because we can be sitting right here feeling like we're limited in our perspective, limited in our ability to reach prosperity. But really, honestly and truly, if we shift our mindset and go into a space where it's right here, right? Abundance is literally right here, and you realize you can remove the veil at any point. It's amazing. It's powerful. So I wanted to check in with y'all. How's your week going? All my folks on Instagram, all my folks on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Check in with me. Let me know how you guys this week has been. I guess I'll show y'all a quick recap of how my week was, and that'll give you guys some context of the conversation that we're going to have today. Because I'll tell you, one of the things that will shift in your journey from 9 to 5 into entrepreneurship is the way you look at structure. So your relationship with structure right now is based on you having to show up for the job and having to do the things that you need to do, your daily responsibilities, right? And so that if your boss says, hey, you need to come in at this certain time, you're gonna show up, right? You also know that if there's a report due, or if there's a deadline that already exists, you're gonna do that thing. But the thing is, when you start to decide or to think about changing your own life, you're the first one to let yourself down because now you don't have the structure in place to tell you, okay, this is the time that I'm going to wake up in the morning. These are the things that I need to do every single day. So the first thing that you might actually experience when you start to shift into this like new freedom space is you kind of lack the structure that you need to keep your day going, right? That's why one of the things that I actually did was I joined this group called the Morning Meetup, and I talk about it on the podcast all the time because that's what allowed me to start my day just like as if I was in a 9 to 5, right? Now, when you shift from going to work for your job to going to work on yourself, then working on in a business, right? You basically go from living in a job or working in a job to owning your job, right? So how do you get to that place of freedom that we all talk about, right? The freedom and flexibility of being an entrepreneur. And that's the challenge. So this week I started my day off, I started Monday off as usual with you guys on the Work and Play podcast. And we had a really dope conversation this week with Nasir Bayan, like crayon, Bayan. And we talked about mental health and the shifts that it takes for you to actually go from awareness or mental illness to mental health to mental wellness, right? Having these different layers of awareness really, heightens your ability to make changes in your life, right? And so after Monday, I had all these different opportunities come up and I had to literally shift my day like in the moment's notice, right? So the decision that I made was that I was going to start my day. I was going to be super structured. I had my Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday decided for me, right? But at every single point in time, I got a call and I got invited to come speak at an event on Wednesday. And I literally got a chance to make a decision to shift, right? And so what do you do in those times? What do you have in place right now that's going to keep you focused when your life kind of shifts in the moment, when you don't have that normal structure, it requires a certain level of discipline. Shout out, shout out, shout out. Grand Rising, Grand Rising. Got my mama in the building. Thank you for being here. It takes discipline. So knowing exactly what it is that you have to get done in the day, it requires you to actually show up. Show up in that moment. Decide what your day is going to look like. And then when things happen, you can make a decision to shift, right? And so when it comes to structure and when it comes to changing your relationship with structure and focusing on the things that you actually want to do, honestly and truly, I had to take a step back because I realized my value in waking up at a certain time and doing, like, having my day blocked off. I talk about time blocking all the time, but I realized I placed a lot of value in doing things on the hour, in the moment, for an hour or 30 minutes or whatever it was. And I realized as long as I got the things that mattered done, then I could literally call that day a success. So when I got the calls to shift my schedule, it wasn't a moment for me to panic and for me to say, oh my God, how am I going to do this, and kind of buckle down and go into anxiety mode. But it was for me to take the call and say, how do I shift my day in this moment? I realized what I used to do was go into panic mode. And honestly and truly, because that is like who I've been growing out of, I actually have to continuously have that conversation with myself. So it's not that, okay, I used to be very structured and now I'm no longer structured and I let that thing go. I actually constantly have a conversation with myself so that I can continue to move forward. That's a whole new reality that many of you guys may not have experienced yet. But if I were to sum up the journey in one like sentence, it was, first, I had structure that was given to me. Next, I created structure in my own life. And then I had to be a little bit more flexible because I had to be able to open up to opportunities that were available to me. Like, what if Tyler Perry calls you one day? Let's say you're working on a project and you really want Tyler Perry to call you one day and give you an opportunity to work in his studio. And you're like, oh, at 2:00 is when I work out. So I have to get up and I have to work out. And then I'll talk to Tyler Perry afterwards. Sometimes, depending on whatever the occasion is, maybe you don't want to be super flexible with that specific time block. But if the opportunity of a lifetime were to come at you and you are still rigid in that structure, then you miss out on the opportunities that are available to you. That is something that I've had to realize. I've talked about this consistently. Sometimes structure can be the number one thing that makes us stand out as corporate professionals going into entrepreneurship. But then sometimes structure can be that shackle that keeps you the same. I was reading an article this weekend. There was a woman, and I wish I could shout out the actual author of the blog, but she was talking about the freedom of having slow mornings. I used to be the person, I still am the person who likes to wake up in the morning at 5:00 in the morning. However, I take my naps seriously. What up, Dia? Thanks for joining. I take my naps much more seriously than I used to. That used to be a rebellious thing for me to take back my time when I was in corporate America. I would take a moment. If I needed it, I would go to my car at 2:00 in the afternoon and I would just rest, meditate, and literally get centered again. That is something that I've taken into entrepreneurship with me, but I still have to learn that, listen, you don't have to get up at 5:30 in the morning every single morning if you don't. But if you need to work out, meditate, read a book, just make sure those things happen, right? Make sure those things happen so that when they do happen, or when you wake up, or if you go to bed at 5:00 in the morning, because we know as entrepreneurs that does happen, then you wake up in the morning, you make sure that you get the things that you need to get done, right? So giving yourself a little bit more flexibility is this new chapter that I'm hoping that you guys are preparing yourselves for, because that structure is going to keep you stagnant in that one decision that you make. You might think that the decision to change your life is where life happens. Honestly and truly, that's the beginning. And then it's a constant unlearning of old patterns that you have to continuously experience so that you can become the person that you truly want to be. Even in this moment, things are working on me. Life is happening for me, right? And it may or may not feel comfortable at all times. I promise you, I'm the person, when I get a flat tire, I'm the person that's like, I know there is a reason for this happening in my life, because if something is not working for me, it's working on me. Shout out to Myron Golden for that. Because if it wasn't working for you, if it's not working for you, if it doesn't feel good, just know that you have to continuously make constant decisions to put one foot in front of the other so that you can realize the change on the outside, right? We make a decision. That's the decision on the inside. But then we take one step further, and that starts to make up the life that we want on the outside. Absolutely. Flexibility. Listen, flexibility was not something that it was immediate, right? Flexibility was something that I came into, I grew into, and I'm still learning. I promise you, leaving corporate Ariel back in the rearview mirror has been one of those things that just continuously happens. But it's also about the people that I have around me. So I want you to think about, who do you have around you? How do they emulate the life that you have versus the life that you want to have, right? And then how do you walk into your new life with confidence, right? Maybe you got a little bit of nervousness, but let that excitement overshadow the nervousness, right? And then as you start to let go of your old self, the structure and the organization, you start to create a new relationship with the structure and organization that you currently have, that you want to have in the future. We're all manifesting the life that we want. We are hard on ourselves, dear. Like, we really are. But I want you guys to take it from me, to give yourself grace, right? And by giving yourself grace, what I mean is, in a moment's notice, when you start to hear your self-talk telling you, oh, I should have done this at 5 o'clock in the morning, because I've been there constantly, right? I'm still currently working on a new shift in my life. So I need you guys to know, when you hear that voice in your head, that you can overpower that voice by telling yourself where you're going. You know where you're going, so continuously make steps, confidently believing in that new self, even if you don't see it yet. The truth is that you're making steps towards that new self. So you don't have to feel like you're lying to yourself about what your growth has in store for you. You keep your eye on that prize. And as you make decisions, as life starts to get shaky, you make constant decisions every single moment that lead up to the life that you really want. Sometimes it doesn't look super duper structured and clean. Sometimes it looks really, really messy. But you have to be confident in that. You have to be able to truly believe that you are working towards your best self. And no U-turns. We don't do U-turns around here, okay? So I want to leave you with that. This morning, think about the road that you're on. And then once you decide what your compass is, what your North Star is, what your future self looks like, work towards that and do not get distracted. But getting distracted might be the biggest challenge that you have to face. And that is okay. I'm here for support and accountability. So above all else, as you make a decision to change your life, know that you don't have to do it alone. That is literally why I've dedicated my life to continuously personally develop, but then also provide accountability for the community of pioneers, because that's what we're on the same journey. All right. No U-turns. No U-turns. So commit today that you are going to be a new person today. Commit that September is going to be the day, the week, the month, right? For your change, your transformation, your shift. No U-turns. I'm going to leave you with that. Until next time, I'm going to see you guys next week for 2 more episodes of the Work and Play podcast. Every Monday and Friday, we release a new episode of the Work and Play podcast, whether it's live or pre-recorded. There's always something that we want to share with you, and we want to hear back what's working for you and what more you want to see, okay? So until next time, y'all have a wonderful Friday. Commit to being great, if nothing else. And I'll see you guys later. Peace.